thing. There we go. Now we are recording. Brilliant. Vix, so good to have you. Looking forward to your talk, all about productivity. I'm going to hand over to you. Give me a shout if you need anything. I'm in the wing.
Thank you so much, Eleanor. What if the most productive thing that you could do right now was to do nothing? That probably seems a little counterintuitive, especially in a world that glorifies grind and hustle culture. We have been sold the story that the only way to succeed is to work harder, faster, and longer than everyone else. But what if this approach is making us less creative, less productive, and less profitable? So today, I want to introduce you to the idea of being a productivity rebel. A productivity rebel is someone who rejects the traditional notion of productivity and instead focuses on creating a sustainable and meaningful approach to work and life. It's about working smarter, not harder, and being intentional about how you use your time and, most importantly, your energy. As an expert in resilience and emotional intelligence, I have had the privilege of training aid workers before they go to conflict zones, of coaching startup founders on creativity and communication, and training thousands of people about well-being at work. I've come to understand that being a productivity rebel is not only possible, but essential for our well-being and success. But it wasn't always like that. Even though I've had to perform in some of the most stressful circumstances you can imagine, long hours away from friends and family, being shelled by the Taliban, I thought I knew what it meant to be productive and resilient. And yet, I still found myself burning out. I was the member of a leadership team of an international development organization just a few short years after leaving the Royal Air Force. I remember having one of many panic attacks in the office bathroom, sat on the floor, hugging my knees as big fat tears dripped off my chin. I was scheduled in back-to-back meetings all day. I couldn't remember the last time I'd taken a lunch break. And the irony was I didn't even have time to have the meltdown I was having. But this felt normal to me. It was only in conversation with my coach one day that I started to realize that it was anything but. After crying through one of our sessions, my coach asked me how stressed I thought I was on a scale from 1 to 10. About a 4, I said. The look she gave me said it all. Having panic attacks nearly every day in the office bathroom is not normal. But this is the human cost of burnout. Physical, emotional, mental health problems, chronic fatigue, anxiety, depression, insomnia. Burnout takes its toll on our relationship. It erodes hope and purpose, and in some cases can lead to suicidal thoughts and actions. And it's not rare. A 2019 study found that 2 in 5 employees in the UK have experienced poor mental health where work was a contributing factor in the previous year. 23% of people in the previous 3 months. Work-related stress and burnout are estimated to cost the UK economy alone £45 billion a year as a result of absence, presenteeism, and staff turnover. Now, the causes are complex and varied. Discrimination, workplace harassment, and bullying are significant concerns alongside workload and pressure at work. And let's face it, people aren't putting up with it. Record numbers of people left their jobs since the start of the pandemic, with job fulfillment being one of the top drivers for people seeking new roles. And if they're not actually leaving, more and more people are engaging in the TikTok-inspired trend of quiet quitting, putting in no more time, effort, or enthusiasm than absolutely necessary. And it's not just the employed. One US survey found that nearly half of small business owners had reported feeling burnt out in the previous year. And a 2020 UK study found that 61% of freelancers had experienced burnout. After I burnt out and left my job, I became fascinated by the question of how I could live a life that I didn't need a holiday from. How could I get things done without long hours, missed lunch breaks, and soul-crushing stress? 5 years of study, practice, and teaching later, and I want to rebel against a linear model of productivity that says more is always better. So today, I want to offer some ideas that individuals and organizations can take to reduce the pressure and the stress so that people can feel more fulfilled and more productive in what they do. Well, one quick note. Getting stuff done in a way that feels good is not just an individual effort. People are not broken. But we live and work inside systems and cultures that at best don't help us thrive, and at worst actively undermine our creative capacity. So, are you ready to join the productivity rebellion? So there's 3 big ideas that I want to talk about today. And this is not an exhaustive list, but one of the principles of being a productivity rebel is that less is always more. And I want to start by talking about stress. You might have heard, you might even have said that the only way that you can get things done is to be under pressure. This is something I hear a lot, and I get it. It feels true. And yet, quite frankly, we're wrong. Stress makes us dumb, conservative, and mean. The neurophysiological effects of stress essentially turn down the volume on our executive function in favor of our survival mechanisms. It makes us less smart. Those same survival mechanisms narrow our vision so that we can focus on the threat in front of us, both literally with our eyes, but metaphorically with our imagination. We see fewer options when we're stressed. We're less creative, we're more conservative. It's why good ideas come when you're out for a walk or in the shower, those times when your body is relaxed and the nervous system is regulated. And stress also makes us mean. When we're stressed, our social engagement system switches off to prioritize our survival. So we either get irritable and push people away, or we just want to run away and hide. Either way, we disconnect. So I want to suggest that being dumb, conservative, and mean is not a good recipe for getting anything done in the world. And so the foundations of getting stuff done in a way that feels good are ones that create safety for our nervous system. Productivity rebels learn tools to manage and regulate their systems. And they create psychological and physical safety in their environments. So there are more cues of welcome and safety than there are cues of danger and warning that trigger people's survival responses. And so I'd like to try a little exercise with you now. Take a moment to check in with yourself and rate how stressed you are on a level from 1 to 10. You've got a number. Find something in the environment around you that feels nice to look at. Could be a picture, could be out of the window, maybe you've got an animal that you care for nearby. And then feel your feet on the floor, feel your bum on the chair, and please take 3 breaths with me. So each time you breathe in, find a little bit more length in the back of your body. And each time you breathe out, soften the muscles down the front. So as you're breathing in, you're creating length and strength in your back. And as you breathe out, you're relaxing the muscles around your eyes, your jaw, your chest, and your belly. And one more time, as you breathe in up the back, strong back. soft front. And then think of somebody or something that makes your heart smile. Allow that sense of a smile to radiate out from you. And ask yourself, how stressed are you now? Regulating our nervous system doesn't take much, but it is the foundation of being able to be productive and creative. I want to talk about my second idea, and that is where our notion of productivity comes from. And it's rooted in the industrial era, in the mindset of how efficient can we get at making widgets. We fine-tune our performance so we might work like a well-oiled machine. But we are not machines. We're human beings. And unlike machines, we are not meant to operate at high speeds continuously for long periods. Instead, we have natural rhythms that are constantly influencing our energy. Everything about you has a rhythm. From the frequency with which your cells are vibrating to your heartbeat, from your circadian rhythm to the ebb and flow of the seasons around you. We are cyclical beings. And you already know this. Human beings love to work in cycles. There's the MVP cycle, the action learning cycle, the project management cycle. But the conveniences of modern life have made it dangerously easy to ignore our natural alignment to cycles. The world around us is on all the time. Artificial lights turn night into day, and our devices operate continuously with the implicit expectation that we'll do the same. We override the urge to wake and rest with stimulants, depressants, and stress. All the time ignoring the natural cycles that keep us healthy, happy, and sustainably productive. When we work in alignment with our cycles, though, we stop wasting energy resisting what is actually happening, and we unlock the creative potential that exists in every cycle. Because each cycle follows the same archetypal pattern. There's a period of turning on, a spring. There's a period of being on, doing, a summer. There's a period then of turning off, closing down, completing, autumn. And then there's a period of being off, of not doing, of winter. Most productivity advice that I see focuses on tinkering with how to do summer better, how to do the doing better. But I think sustainable creative productivity comes from honoring the full rotation of every cycle. This way of working isn't about adding more. It's about paying attention to the natural ebbs and flows of energy that are already happening. So whether you choose to organize your working day to better reflect the way your energy moves, perhaps you prefer to do deep focused work alone in the morning and take meetings in the afternoons where you feel more sociable. Or perhaps your team operates on a project sprint with clear periods for planning, execution, reflection and learning, and finally allowing for a period of rest and recovery before the next cycle starts. Learning to work with our rhythms and cycles that are present in all of us is the path to being sustainably and rebelliously productive. And then the final element I'd like to share with you today is about the power of why. Now, I imagine this is not new to you. Simon Sinek has built an entire career on the importance of starting with why. Daniel Pink has purpose as one of his 3 pillars of motivation 3.0 in his book, Drive. Yet, purpose so often lives in a dusty mission statement on glossy values or tucked away in a notebook in an exercise we did once. For it to work, our why has to be living and breathing and continuously made explicit. I teach authentic relating, a suite of tools to help people cultivate more nourishing, more trustworthy, more honest relationships. And one of the most useful tools I teach is something called setting context. And setting context is the Swiss Army knife of communication tools. It is useful everywhere. You can think of it like setting the rules of a game and then enrolling people to play. I imagine you did this a lot as a child in the playground. The real skill is getting people to buy into your game. Without this, people don't uphold the rules and they don't engage in the activities you want them to. And of all the elements of setting context, the single most effective to enrolling people is why. Because why is the place where we feel connected to ourselves, connected to others, connected to something bigger than ourselves. Being clear about why serves to put the quality of relationship on an equal footing with all other practical outcomes. How we do something matters just as much as what we're doing. Because if we only pay attention to what we do, which I have to say is what most productivity advice teaches, we can quickly become busy and overwhelmed like the proverbial hamster on its wheel. Lots and lots of effort, but going nowhere fast. And if what we do isn't connected to why we're doing it, we end up procrastinating. Because when we've lost connection with the activity's purpose and meaning, we find ourselves unmotivated and uninspired. Productivity rebels know how to inspire themselves and others towards an outcome and how to make the journey along the way worthwhile. And that all starts with why. So I've shared some pretty big ideas with you today. And as a self-confessed recovering perfectionist, I know that when I hear talks like this, I can quickly feel overwhelmed by everything I need to do, or instead check out, decide it wasn't for me and don't do anything with it anyway. So I imagine that might resonate for a few people. So to help you, as we come to a close, I'd love for you to consider how you might start to experiment with some of what I've shared with you today. There's no right way to be a productivity rebel. I would say the clue is kind of in the title. You need to find out what works for you. Experiment. I invite you to take one element from what you've heard today and to play with it for a week. You might even frame a hypothesis or a question so that you can be clear about what you're experimenting with, collect data as you go, and monitor your progress. At the end of the week, review it, because remember, the power of cycles includes taking time to review things and letting them percolate before starting the next thing. And then you get to decide what you do for the following week. Keep doing the same thing, maybe you want to add something new, maybe you want to get rid of it altogether. And I'd like you to remind you that these experiments can be small. I call them the 1% shift. Because overachievers are the worst for trying to do everything all at once, and it really just stresses us all out. And remember, stress makes us dumb, conservative, and mean. So 1% shifts. What is one small thing you could do? How might you feel 1% more at ease, or 1% more joy, or 1% of however it is that you'd like to be feeling as you go about your tasks? What could you do to bring 1% more of your why into how and what you're doing? So those are 3 core concepts of what it means to be a productivity rebel. Deliberately wanted to keep this relatively simple. I didn't want to drown you in information. But what I haven't done is given you lots of practical action steps. And that's because that's what I love to teach in my workshops and courses. I love to teach experientially because I find it's quicker, stickier, and deeper than only learning it intellectually. I teach in a way that supports people to integrate what they're learning so that they actually embody it and use it, rather than just knowing it and never actually quite putting it into action. So if you would like to go deeper, if you would like to become more of a rebel, You'll find a collection of free resources on my website, vixanderton.com. And please do get in touch if you'd like to discuss one-to-one coaching, workshops, or courses. Thank you so much for being with me today, and please go and be rebellious.